Young Ahamkara's spine is back and it's better than ever. On top of the infinite damage rotation that it provides, now thanks to the new and updated fragments, we are finally able to get close and personal to our enemies without any fear. I mean, we even have volatile rounds and overshields on a Solar subclass. This build used to destroy in Solar 3.0, now it's ready to dominate Lightfall, and I'm going to show you how in today's video, so make sure you stick around. Lightfall has introduced a lot of changes, some for the better and some for the worse. One of the biggest buffs that any melee build has received is being able to spawn orbs of power with your melee ability. Those orbs can then be picked up to activate recuperation, which is a very solid heal to say the least. This will be keeping you alive most of the time because we can generate an insane amount of orbs of power, and I mean an actual ridiculous amount, since heavy-handed doesn't seem to have a cooldown, and if it does, it's extremely low. The second most important buff that Solar builds obtained this season is being able to proc restoration by picking up a fire sprite or reviving a teammate. This is thanks to the new fragment Ember of Mercy. However, there is a little bug with this fragment, because if you are stacking up your restoration to, let's say, 12 seconds, and suddenly you proceed to pick up another fire sprite, your restoration will get reset to its original value, that being 3 seconds. So until they fix this, you probably want to avoid picking up any extra fire sprites when you already have your restoration extended. Anyways, let's talk about Young Ahamkara's spine, one of the most fun exotics in the game. It increases trip mine duration and blast radius. It also provides you with grenade energy whenever you deal ability damage. That means damage from either your knives, your grenade, or ignitions, because yes, ignitions also count as ability damage, meaning that each ignition that you cause will be giving you grenade energy as well. Another hidden perk that they don't mention is that you will no longer take damage from your own trip mine grenades. This means that you don't have to worry about blowing yourself up. The usual rotation for this exotic looks like this. You throw your grenade, followed by your melee, and then you instantly dodge. Pretty simple, right? But if you want to fully maximize this exotic potential, you want to go for this instead. Grenade, melee, grenade, dodge. The reason why you want to throw your grenade instantly after your melee is because after the first melee, you will create an ignition which will give you free grenade energy. So if you don't throw grenades straight away, that free grenade energy will go to waste. After that, you just want to keep on rotating between your grenade, melee and dodge. Alright, now that you know the rotation, let's get into the actual build. On your artifact, you want to have authorized mods, void and grenades unlocked, because this will reduce the cost of those mods. Solar Search is the next mod you want to unlock. This will give us a free armor charge on Fire Sprite pickup. Finally, the last mod that we need is Volatile Flow, which will give our void weapons volatile rounds every time we pick up an orb of power, which should be all the time with this build. The other two mods are optional and they won't affect your build as much. We have Bricks from Beyond and Counterweave. Stat-wise, you want to invest into Resilience because it is still the best stat in the game. We don't invest into Mobility because we are going to be getting our dodge back thanks to our fragments and mods. Recovery is also not as important since we are going to be getting healed non-stop, and we also have a mod that increases our recovery by 3 tiers. Finally, Discipline is not needed either because we get our grenade back thanks to Ahamkara's spine. So as you can see, this build is not stat reliant at all, as all you need is 100 resilience and that's about it. Ability wise, we are starting off with Gambler's Dodge, that way we can get our melee back whenever we dodge. We have Knife Trick, which scorches the enemies, and this scorch is very important because this is going to be activating Ember of Singeing, which increases the recharge rate of our class ability whenever we scorch targets. And then obviously we have Trip Mine Grenades, which are an absolute must for this build. Aspect wise, we have Knock 'em Down. This basically just improves your super, and it also allows you to spam your knives infinitely as long as you get a kill while being radiant. Luckily for us, our Ember of Torches makes us radiant whenever we throw our knives, so they go together. For our second aspect, we are using On Your Mark, and this is simply for the 3 fragment slots that it provides, but it's also a very good fragment as it gives you handling and reload speed every time you get a precision final blow. If you dodge, then you get the full 3 stacks instantly. Fragment wise, we are using Ember of Torches because it makes us radiant whenever we hit a target with our melee. Then we're using Ember of Searing, which is going to create those fire sprites whenever we defeat a scorched target. Next up we have Ember of Mercy, which is going to give us that restoration whenever we pick up the fire sprite, and it's also going to give us restoration whenever we revive an ally. Then we have Ember of Empyrean, which is going to extend the duration of restoration and radiant whenever we get solar final blows. So you basically want to pick up a fire sprite and then quickly proceed to start extending restoration thanks to this fragment. Finally, we are using Ember of Singeing for that increased recharge rate on our class ability whenever we scorch targets. Mod wise, we are going to be starting with Ashes to Assets because it's going to give us super energy on grenade kills, Hands on, which is also giving us super energy but on melee kills, and then for the last mod we are supposed to be using Dynamo, which is going to reduce your super cooldown whenever you use your class ability near targets. However, at the moment it's disabled because it is bugged. So in the meantime, you can either use another copy of Ashes to Assets or another copy of Hands On. Both are perfectly fine. On our gauntlets, we are using Focusing Strike, which is going to give us class ability energy whenever we cause damage with our melee attack, aka our knives. Then we use Heavy Handed. This is going to allow you to spawn orbs of power whenever you get a melee kill. And then Firepower works the exact same way, but with grenades. On our chestplate, we are using melee damage resistance, and this is because we are going to be getting pretty close to our enemies when we are dodging and throwing knives at them. Then we use Concussive Dampener for that AoE damage resistance, and finally Charged Up, that way we can carry 1 extra stack of armor charge. Now, on our leg armor, we are using Recuperation, which is going to give us a lot of healing whenever we pick up an Orb of Power. Then we have Stack on Stacks, which is going to allow us to get 1 additional stack of armor charge whenever we pick up an Orb of Power. And finally we have Void Weapon Surge, and this is because we are going to be using Void Weapons with this build, as we are using volatile rounds. Now if you're not using volatile rounds and you want to stick with solar weapons, then simply put Solar Weapon Surge instead. But make sure that you get the artifact mod that decreases the cost of this mod. Finally, on our cloak, we are using Utility Kickstart, and this is going to allow us to get our dodge a bit faster whenever we use it. Followed by Font of Restoration, which is going to give us 3 tiers of recovery whenever we have armor charge stacks on us. If you don't need the stat mod on your cloak, then you can also put Elemental Time Dilation in here, which is going to give us a longer duration on the decay of armor charges. Weapon wise, you can use anything you want with this build. Now because I am also taking advantage of volatile rounds, I am using Unforgiven with Repulsor Brace. That way I can not only proc the volatile rounds, but I can also get an infinite amount of overshields on a solar subclass, which seems insane to me. However, keep in mind that using void weapons will mean that the only way of extending your restoration is through your abilities. If you are not comfortable with that, then feel free to use a solar weapon, that way you will have an easier time extending restoration and radiant. The way you want to play this build is by spamming your grenade and melee as much as possible. Once you pick up a fire sprite, you will have around 4 seconds to quickly find an enemy and kill it with solar damage. That way, Ember of Empyrean can extend the duration of restoration and radiant on us. Remember that we also get volatile rounds on our void weapons, and we also get a damage increase for them. If you combine this with Repulsor Brace, you will also end up gaining an infinite amount of overshields. One last thing, don't be afraid to spam your super, since you will be getting it back extremely quick with this build. And that's about it guys. Thank you so much for watching and have a good rest of your day.